The Rams at 1, fine. The Seahawks needed a gift from the gods to beat a 372-year-old fat man at quarterback. Meanwhile, the Broncos
He's
turned
just
around
puffy.
with one
He's
of the
not
most
fat, okay?
puffy man. And the Broncos go out with one of the most impressive wins we'll see. And you, the person that's been telling me all year, the Broncos are only 2 or 3 plays away from being undefeated. You have the Broncos at 3 under the Seahawks, who needed help beating Croissant Rivers.
Is that how I sound? Wow, that was Croissant Rivers. I do like that. Look, I still think the Seahawks. Look, this is what happened to the Seahawks on Sunday. I will tell you exactly. They were like, well, the Colts are dead. We know that. They're not beating us with Phillip Rivers, but we have Super Bowl 59.5 or whatever number we're up to on Thursday night against the Rams. They were looking ahead. They overlooked the Colts and still won. So look, it was not a pretty performance in any way. And if they play like that against the Rams, they're going to get beat. I give them a pass, though. I say, Seahawks have been very, very, very good all season. I'm leaving them at number 2. I believe in them. And we'll see. Like on Thursday night, we will see. Because I'm telling you, if they win on Thursday night, they will be talking a week from now. And I'll be saying, yep, Seattle's the number 1 team in the NFL. And it's undisputed at this point.
Okay, let's move on to the next group. I have a feeling, Frank, that you just are looking ahead to Christmas. You're just mailing it in. Didn't feel like doing a whole lot of work this week. Because I just watched the Buffalo Bills beat the New England Patriots just a couple of moons ago. And the Buffalo Bills moved up 1 spot to 8, 4 spots below the team that they just beat. Make sense to me, Frank.
I don't believe in the Bills. I don't. I think the odds makers do. They love the Bills. They think the Bills are just Josh Allen's gonna carry them to the Super Bowl. And maybe that happens because Josh Allen's Superman. And at this point, I would vote him MVP if I had a vote. I think he's played that well. But that team is so flawed around him. They gave up 7 yards per play against the Patriots. They did fall behind 21-0. I did watch them get blasted by the Texans like 3 weeks ago. When people are all up on me like, oh, nobody's beating the Bills in the playoffs. I'm like, did you not watch them play the Texans like 3 weeks ago when the Texans absolutely obliterated them? So I just think the Buffalo Bills are a very flawed team with one superhero on the field. And James Cook is very good too, by the way. But Josh Allen is the reason there's hope for the Bills. But I just look at this as a flawed team. I think their defense is bad. I think their receivers are bad. I think their offensive line is okay, I guess. Their coach is under fire for good reason. I don't see there being any improvements. So I just look at the Bills as a flawed team with one great player. And that maybe one great player is good enough in this year's AFC. But I just look at just not a Bills believer. That's what I'm a hater. To put it that way. I'm just not feeling the Bills as this.
Not a
hey, they're going to win the
believer.
AFC. Yeah, not a believer. No, nobody's circling the wagons with them this year. No.
But all right, so then let me push back on that with this. If you're not a believer in the Bills, which I'll buy, that's fine. Let's take the Bills off the Patriots schedule. What's the best win the Patriots have this year if we take the Buffalo win out? Like, I mean, the Panthers early weren't good. The Saints, the Titans, the Browns, the Falcons, the Bucks, the Jets, the Bengals, the Giants. Those teams mostly suck. So
Right,
if
mostly.
you don't believe in the Bills, what have we seen from the Patriots that you do believe in that would put them ahead of Chicago or the Texans?
It is fair, but I will say, look, the Buccaneers it's a solid win. It maybe not quad 1, but it's quad 2 to beat the Buccaneers on the road, and you can't just eliminate the winning at the Bills like that. I think that validated a lot of what they've done, and I look at this and we play into recency bias so much. We're like, oh, the Patriots just lost. The Patriots are still 10-1 in their last 11 games. Everybody behind them on this list of power rankings is not as good as 10-1 in their last 11 games. They've all lost more than one game. They lost. It was a bad loss. But I still think, again, there's context involved in that game. Yes, they blew the lead. I get that. They also look pretty good building that 21-0 lead. When they were up 21-0, I'm like, man, the Patriots look really good. They did blow it. They're a young team. They screwed it up. The Bills, Josh Allen put the whole team on his back. But I still believe in this Patriots team being better than the perception. I think if you look at the betting market, the Patriots are underdogs against the Ravens this week. Like, come on, the Ravens have stunk all year. So I still believe in the Patriots more than most, I believe.
Let's look at the Texans. Is their defense good enough to win them 4 playoff games?
Yes, and not just that, Caroline. Here's what I saw with the Texans on Sunday, and I get they played the Cardinals, who are like, they already have their bags packed to Cancun. They're like, can we please get out of here? We don't want to play anymore. But CJ Stroud looked awesome. And it was kind of a reminder of, yeah, CJ Stroud's a really talented dude and a really good quarterback. And he played great. I believe his passer rating was 137 on Sunday, and he just looked good. And I don't need that to be their offense every week. I need them to have an above average offense, because I think if they pair an above average offense with that defense, which I think the gap between 1 and 2, I think the Broncos are the second best defense in the NFL. The gap between 1 and 2 is huge. The Texans are the best defensive football, hard stop. There's just no question about it. So you put that defense, which is obliterated Josh Allen, beat the heck out of Patrick Mahomes a few weeks ago. This is a legitimate defense. And I think, yes, I think they can make a Super Bowl, especially if the offense plays like it did on Sunday. Look, they're coming together. They got some young pieces. They got a lot of rookies playing. Woody Marks, and Jalen Noel, and Jaden Higgins, and all these guys. And if CJ Stroud could play like that, the offensive line is just okay. I think the Texans are really, really good at getting hot at the right time.
All right, let's pull up the next grouping here, because you've got the 9 through 12. Green Bay at 9, Jacksonville at 10, the 49ers at 11, the Chargers at 12. We were just talking about the 49ers here. And I don't know, you've got the 49ers moving down a little bit, but are they sort of sleeping in plain sight, hiding in plain sight to you?
I don't know what to make of the 49ers. I respect the heck of what they've done this season, overcoming the injuries. I think Kyle Shanahan should be coach of the year. I'm going to say that every week, because he's not going to win, and I'm going to be mad about it, because that's just not the formula for voters on coach of the year. But I will say this about the 49ers. You know the last time they beat a team that's currently over 500? Week 5. It was that Rams game in overtime. Oof. Only other time they beat a team with a winning record was week 1, Seattle. So I'm like, you just talked about the Patriots. The 49ers are basically the same. They've beaten really, really bad teams, like some of the worst teams in the NFL, but they're doing it. And I still give credit to, hey, not everybody's beaten bad teams this year. I see teams all the time. I see the Packers lose to the Panthers at home, or the Browns. And I'm like, okay, well, that happens in the NFL. The 49ers really haven't done that. They've beaten the teams they should beat. They're in a great position to make the playoffs. I think Kyle's done an unbelievable job. But yes, I still worry about the 49ers. Don't think their defense is very good. And when they play real teams, I think they're going to get exposed a little bit. But they were just a tough team for me. This whole panel is very interesting. This group of 4, I'm like, I could see any of these teams making a deep run, making a conference championship game. I could see any of these teams getting blown out wild card weekend. It wouldn't surprise neither would surprise me. They're just kind of this mixed bag of, I don't know what to do with these teams, because on one hand I respect what they've all done. On the other hand, I'm very skeptical about them.
I'm also very skeptical about the Green Bay Packers. I feel like they're like a narcissistic boyfriend. It's like, I finally think maybe he's turned a curve, win 4 games straight, and then bam, you go out and you drop an egg against the Denver Broncos. Like, just when I believed, I was proven why I shouldn't have believed even in the first place. How much of your ranking, dropping them 4 spots, is a projection of not having Micah Parsons, and how much of it is that's just where the Packers are right now?
No, almost completely because of Micah. I think if they would have just lost to the Broncos, and by the way, they were winning that game when Micah Parsons got hurt, and then they give up 2 touchdowns after Micah's out, which makes sense. Micah's the difference maker on that entire team. He is the best player on that team. He's one of the best players in the entire NFL. And now all of a sudden you lose that game when you were favored, and now I don't even know if you win the division anymore. They got to go to Chicago on Saturday night. Like, that's not easy. So I just look at the Packers as, look, the Packers in the offseason, they even said we need more urgency. We need to start competing for championships. So what did they do? They went out and got Micah Parsons, because they knew we're a good team that needs to graduate to great. Well, when you remove Micah Parsons from the equation, they kind of revert back to good. They are good. I have 9. Like, I don't think they're a bad team by any means. I don't think they have a championship upside anymore. It's not just Micah Parsons. It's Tucker Kraft is out for the season. Devontae Wyatt is out. Elgin Jenkins is out, one of their best offensive linemen. Like, they are very shorthanded right now. I think this is just going to be a what-if season for the Packers. They're going to look back and say, man, if we could have stayed healthy, we could have won a Super Bowl. I really think they had that upside, but I don't anymore without Parsons.
All right, let's pull up the next group of – oh, go ahead. Sorry, Caroline. It's you. My fault.
Yeah, let's look at the next group. We've got the Lions, the Steelers, the Ravens, and the Cowboys. I mean, talk about trust issues. Those top 3 teams right there, Lions, Steelers, Ravens. I can't figure them out, Frank. Can you help me just try and pinpoint what these teams are?
Exactly. And I think the best illustration for these 4 teams, and the first one in particular, the Lions have not won or lost 2 games in a row since the beginning of October. they have gone win, loss, win, loss, win, loss, win. It is astounding to me that the Detroit Lions can't win 2 games in a row. And if you're expecting like, well, if they win out, they're going to make the playoffs. And if they get to the playoffs, they can put together 3 games in a row. Well, they haven't won 2 games in a row since September. Like, this is just, it ain't happening. I think the defensive injuries have really set them back. They gave up 41 points to the Rams. They're just not good enough this year. They're just not. And many reasons, I guess, for that. The defense has really let them down. But just week to week, you're like, I believe in the Lions now. They had that huge win against the Cowboys, and then they go into the Rams and they give up 41 points and lose. That's just who the Lions are right now. The one team I really am struggling with is the Steelers, because I don't think they're good. I really don't. I don't think the Steelers are very good, but they keep winning games. The old man at quarterback is playing pretty well. He's the second best 42-year-old quarterback of all time behind Brady. They are getting the job done. Tomlin gets the most out of his teams. I don't know what to make of the Steelers. I am just flummoxed by them, because I do think they looked pretty good last night.
I mean, you're right, and we talked about it earlier. It's almost a nightmare situation for Steelers fans. You're going to go to the playoffs with this team, I think, at this point. And hell, you might even in this weird AFC, they would get, if the playoffs started today, they get the Chargers in Pittsburgh. You never know in that situation. They could win a playoff game, and I'm not sure they're great. What do we do with the Ravens at this point? Because I know you were early on, you were saying, hey, they need to get it right. You did move them 4 spots up. Are you starting to believe in Baltimore?
Not really. I look, good for them to win at the Bengals, but I wrote about this on Sunday, winners and losers, that Joe Burrow, there's something going on there. He just looked like he didn't want to play football. And I don't know. That's amateur psychologist stuff. And there's a lot going on with that Bengals offense that has nothing to do with his comments last Wednesday about, like, if I'm not happy, what am I doing this for? Yeah, but it was hard not to equate the two. So I looked at that Ravens win and I was like, good for you. That good quality win. But you look at the Ravens' upcoming schedule, and they play the Patriots, they play at the Packers, and then they play at the Steelers. They're probably going to have to win all 3 of those games. And honestly, I don't trust them to do that.
Do you how should we couch the Cowboys season at this point?
They're just average. And the thing is, Jerry Jones comes out after the game and he says something to the effect of, I'm stunned that we're in this position. I can't believe it. Like, why? Well, Jerry, that's the problem. You have no self-awareness that your team is so middle of the road. You are the most middle of the road team in the NFL. You're not bad. They're not a bad football team, but they ain't good, like, by any means. But Jerry Jones said, saying, I can't believe we're not in a play. You should. And that's a problem. When you are in that position of roster building, you have to have some sense of self-awareness. You have to have some sense of self-scouting to be like, you know what, we're just not good enough. But Jerry's sitting here, I guess believes that they should be like the number 1 seed in the NFC or something. But you're not. Like, it's just a very, very middle of the road 6-7 football team. Like, they're just there. They're just there.
Frank with the 6-7
I know you like that.
Well done. Let's pull up the next. That was perfect. Let's get the next one up. The next listing: the Chiefs, the Buccaneers, the Panthers, and the Vikings. Here, what do we do with Casey? I'm surprised, honestly. You only dropped him 2 with no Mahomes.
Yeah, I know. I thought about dropping him further, but I just want to. Part of the reason is I'm fighting back against this notion that, like, the Chiefs are terrible this year. I know you can look at the record and be like, the Chiefs are just trash, but we've talked about this before. Basically, last year's team and this year's team aren't that much different. They're the same. They just can't win a close game. Like, they're not a bad team. I did before the Mahomes injury. I heard, the dynasty's over. They're done. They're dead. Like, why would you think that? Why would you think the Kansas City Chiefs are just going to fall off the planet and all of a sudden just become this, like, whatever team? They're going to become the Carolina Panthers or something every year. Sorry, Caroline. That is just going to be like this whatever team going forward. You have Patrick Mahomes, you have Andy Reid. Yeah, you got salary cap issues. I don't care. They're going to figure that out. They're a good front office. But Mahomes just changes everything. We don't know what he's going to look like next year. They're going to have to change their offseason plans to protect Mahomes better. They're going to have to change their offense to fit the fact that Mahomes isn't going to be running around anymore. Like, it's a big, big loss for the Chiefs. So but I do want to give them the respect they deserve. They're not a bad football team. They're simply not. And I didn't want to dump them all the way to like 25 or something, because the teams behind them on this list, those are truly bad football teams, where the Chiefs are not.
I think the Panthers deserve a couple of strays after getting swept by the Saints.
Giving up that lead. What a bad loss.
How? Is the Chiefs dynasty over?
I don't think so, because I still look. I don't think Patrick Mahomes is going to be one of these guys who just never is right anymore from the ACL. I think he's going to be Brady.
Yeah.
Like, remember, Brady tore his ACL 2008, first game of the season. He came back and obviously had a Hall of Fame career after that, like a separate Hall of Fame career after that. So I think that Mahomes is going to be fine. And I'm never going to say like Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid together just can't. They're never going to win another Super Bowl. They might not, just because it's really hard. But one bad year, and it's not even I know people are like, just want to bury the Chiefs. They're wishing for this. They've been praying for this, and now they get to do their victory laps. The Chiefs are not having a terrible season. They're having terrible luck in close games, period, and stop. And they're not making the plays in those close games. I'll give you that. But this Chiefs team, I don't think the dynasty's over. I think they're going to be still very good. I have faith that Patrick Mahomes coming back strong off of this.
All right, let's get to the next grouping. You've got the Indianapolis Colts with Old Man Rivers at 21, Atlanta Falcons at 22, the Dolphins at 23, even after a valiant little effort there in the fourth quarter last night, and then the Cincinnati Bengals at 24. We mentioned Joe Burrow earlier with some disturbing probably isn't the right word, but if you're a Bengals fan, yeah, it was disturbing comments about not having fun. If I'm not doing this, why, if I'm not having fun, why am I still doing this? With the Dolphins, they got to move on from Tua. That's how you fix that team.
Yep.
The Indianapolis Colts, you have to get Daniel Jones healthy. That's how you fix that team. How do you fix the Cincinnati Bengals?
I don't know at this point. I really don't, because they don't have the resources to go out there and fix everything they need to fix. Like, I look at that defense and I'm like, I mean, especially with Trey Hendrickson probably moving on, you could replace 9 or 10 starters if you wanted to. They're that bad on defense, and you don't do that in one off season. Not with a quarterback and 2 receivers making a ton of salary, and also your owner being pretty cheap. And then your offensive line needs help too. That's why part of the reason Joe Burrow is having this emo phase right now has to be he's hurt all the time behind this terrible offensive line. Everybody has made the Andrew Luck equation by now, where you're like, he just hates being hurt all the time. And the offensive line plays into that so much. So I don't know how the Bengals fix this. I do think I think it's time to switch a head coach. I think you miss out on, I don't care if Burrow's been hurt. You miss out on the playoffs 3 straight times in Joe Burrow's prime. You're turning this guy into Archie Manning all of a sudden, where he's just a great player on a really, really bad team. I think the coach has got to go. I think you got to just change everything. What you have to do, if you're Mike Brown, if you're the owner there, you have to sit down with Joe Burrow and say, how do we fix it? That's the question for him. And I know people are like, why do you let LeBron be GM? And why do you let Aaron Rodgers do whatever he wants? It's because these guys are superstars. And yes, you do need to cater to them a little bit. And I think ownership needs to sit down with Joe Burrow and say, what do you need to make this right? And we're going to do everything we can to make it right. And I think part of that is the offensive line. Part of that, it maybe just, again, changing out the entire operation. Like, just start over. You have some talent there, and you have one of the greatest quarterbacks of our generation. There is something there, but it's going to be it's going to be a while. It's going to take a total reset, but I do think it starts I do think you need to change coaches at this point.
Let me pull up the next list here, because you've got in this one some interesting Washington, the Saints, the Browns, the Jets. Over the course of the weekend, we saw a rookie quarterback go out there and show enough that people think his team might be out of the quarterback market. And I'm not talking about Shador. Everybody suddenly fell in love with Shuck in New Orleans. We think like Shuck is the answer. We Shuck in the future for the Saints going to Shuck.
One more Shuck pun, please.
Yeah, please.
We'll try to figure out shucking corn. Couldn't get it in.
I do believe that he's done enough where you give him another year. Why not? Well, you spent a high second round pick on him. See it through. See what you got. Because if you hit on something, great. And I think he's looked, by the way, both of his good games have come against the Carolina Panthers. Maybe that's a Panthers thing and not a Tyler Shuck thing, but we'll see. I think that he's done good enough that you say, we could use this top 10 pick on offensive line help or another receiver or whatever. We'll see it through with Shuck. Unless there's somebody staring you in the face that you just like, we love this quarterback, we got to draft him. But I don't think there's that quarterback in this draft. So I think that Shuck has done enough that he's their 2026 starter. And I'll say this. A lot of these teams that we're going to talk about right now, the teams on the screen right now, they have just looked like they've checked out. They're giving up. They're 1-2-3 Cancun, all this kind of stuff. The Saints are battling hard for Kellen Moore, and I think that's a great sign for Kellen Moore. I think that is a great sign that guys are this is not a talented team in any way. They're really, really devoid of talent, but they're fighting hard for Kellen Moore. They're buying into what he's selling. And I think if you're the Saints, that's the one thing I take from the season is to say, I think we might have something with this coach because this team is playing really well for him. They've already this year, they've beat the Panthers twice and the Bucks once. Those are the two best teams in the NFC South. You go into the offseason saying, we weren't talented enough to compete last year, but if we have a good offseason, we might be able to creep up and be in this race next year.
I mean, yeah, they're not playing like they're going to Cancun in a couple of weeks.
Nope.
And I think there's something to be said about that for a coach that can keep a bad team together well into December. What about the Browns? What do the Browns do this offseason?
And again, I think it's the same thing. I do think, look, and I don't think we've got an answer yet on Shedeur because it's up and down and up and down. And boy, was Sunday down. He was awful. He was terrible. Like, there's no escaping that. But he's a fifth-round rookie quarterback. Like, it was never going to be smooth. So I still think we're in an evaluation process with them. I still don't think we have the final answer on what you do in 2026. But if we're sitting here today and they somehow didn't play any more games, I would say, whatever, let's see it through. Let's see it through for one more year. Again, because you can use these high draft picks around Shedeur, around the quarterback position. And if you decide after a year, nope, this ain't it, in 2027, you draft your quarterback, right? Unless Mendoza falls to you and you're just like, we can't pass this guy. Character is through the roof, production's through the roof. We got to draft him because we love him. Okay, that's a different story. But again, I don't think this is that draft class. I just think this is a draft where you say, let's see one more year with Shedeur. We're going to get him some offensive line help. We're going to get him we're going to get Tate out of Ohio State to help him out on offense. And then you make a decision on Sanders in a year.
All right. So
it's not a great year. Not a great year to suck, which is bad news for these four teams because they suck. Cardinals, Giants, Titans, and no more teams. No more teams left.
No
Just
more
31
teams,
in the NFL.
Only 31 in the NFL. That's crazy.
I don't really know.
Yeah,
what,
I know.
Will Fernando Mendoza fix me? Will Fernando Mendoza fix me?
No, I mean, he can't hurt at this point, but I mean, I made the Jeremiah Love joke.
Don't put that on
Twitter.
Fernando Mendoza.
I made the oh god, I made the Jeremiah Love joke on Twitter because it was so ridiculous that they drafted Ashton Genty, and Fitz got mad at me for that. And I was joking though; they're not probably going to draft a running back in the top 5 again, but they shouldn't have in the first place. Genty looks terrible because they can't support him even if he is good. I don't know what to make of Ashton Genty right now, and Pete coming out, and I know, what are you going to say? You're in a press conference, somebody asks you about your job, and he's like, I don't feel like I'm on the hot seat. Maybe it's because we've already moved on from the hot seat. Like, it's just whether Pete Carroll gets fired before the end of the year. I think the only thing keeping him on the job is the respect he is built up. You know, like, this isn't some Urban Meyer. This isn't some Nathaniel Hackett where they're just slappies who just get fired in the middle of the first season because whatever. Pete Carroll should get the respect of finishing out the season, I guess, but it ain't working. 75 yards in an NFL game is almost impossible. Like, you have to try to be that bad in an NFL game. And 75 yards, my goodness, that was bad football. I'm sorry, Fitz. This is just, it's unwatchable. It is absolutely not even a professional operation in Las Vegas at this point.
You were right. And as one social media account pointed out the other day, next year, Mark Davis could be paying $50 million just next year to coaches that are all fired. That's just how off the rails it has gone. Congratulations.
Good.
Frank, your rankings, they got better as they got easier. We're going to have to do a little homework next week on what to do at the top. We look forward to it. As always, we appreciate you. Check out the rankings, of course, at Yahoo Sports and follow him at Yahoo Schwab. We appreciate you, Frank.
Absolutely, guys.
Thank you, Frank. Appreciate you.
So let's take a look again, summarizing here. The Rams at 1, the Raiders at 32. The top riser, the Ravens. The top faller, the Packers. But I do think, Caroline, that we learned again in the process of going through these for Frank that this year they're just a lot, like, depending on how you come into it, confirmation bias is a real thing. If you come in wanting to support a bunch of teams, there are a bunch of teams to support. If you want to come in trashing them, there's a bunch of those very same teams that we could just rip apart. There just isn't clear cut to me. Once we get to like number 3 to number 10, they're all sort of in a blender together.
This is the point in the season where we have to make sure that we are keeping context of the entirety of the season. That it is so easy for us to totally and completely change our minds on some of these teams with how fickle some teams have been. The Steelers have been fickle. The Packers, the Lions, the Bills. I mean, there's a million teams that you could name that have looked great for a couple of weeks and then just lay an absolute clunker. And I think that having the Bills still 4 spots below the Patriots, maybe it feels wild and crazy just days after the Bills beat the Patriots, but when you look at the entirety of the season, like, I don't think that's totally and completely wrong.